Hi, I'm Sam Folkart, and this is my CS4250 Homework Zero project. For my project, I modified the Sierpinski Gasket program. What I did is I made the triangle upside down. I changed the 3 points around initially to change the triangle upside down, and then I also changed the color to give this gradient from blue to purple to red. And I also implemented zooming so that you can zoom into the recursive structure and see it get more detailed. I also implemented panning around the structure. So to do this, I made a lot of changes to the project structure overall. First off, one of the things that I did that wasn't really required was that I made the project build with CMake because I like CMake more than I like just normal make files or automake or anything like that. I really like CMake, and I'm really used to JetBrains and Android Studio and CLion. And if you want to build practically anything on Android, you need to use CMake. So I'm used to CMake. So I remade this project directory with CMake, and I also rebuilt Angel's library with CMake also. So this lets me do a lot of things. It lets me run it on my Mac very easily. I can just go over here and click run, and it also lets me debug very easily, which debugging for me is a problem when I have to use GDB in the command line. But here it's not a problem because I can just click debug and it completely builds it from scratch. It'll go to the breakpoints that I choose. I have a bug with my IDE where for some reason the IDE can't find the debugger unless I use Clang to compile instead of GCC. So I only use Clang while I'm debugging. But if you see, I have a breakpoint in my mouse function. So if I click on the screen, it's going to hit the breakpoint, and I can see where on the screen I clicked. Oops, here's where I should actually be looking. Here and here. Here's the watched variables. You can see where I click on the screen. There, both of these are close to 0, because this was really helpful to figure out that when you resize the screen, you get different X and Y values based off of how the screen is resized. I needed to figure that out to be able to implement the mouse function. I wouldn't have figured that out without debugging. So CMake was needed for me. So that's one thing that wasn't required that I did. I'm going to change this back to GCC now and rebuild it to get rid of the warnings, because the warnings come up because of Clang. I'm going to rebuild, and then that will make the warnings go away. So my initial thought for this project wasn't actually just to flip the triangle over. I was actually going to do a lot more and try and make this a recursive square thing. But then I had issues with that, and I kind of just made like a noise pattern. And then that gave me the idea to implement Perlin noise, and that did not go well either. So I just went with the triangle upside down. So to make the triangle upside down, all I did was modify the vertices to make these 3 different vertices instead. And this function is all the same. And then to implement the color, I added in an extra attribute to the vertex shader. I'm going to run the program again to show the colors. So you can see that near this corner of the screen it's blue, and near this corner of the screen it's red. And the way it did that is just by passing in the X coordinate to the red color, and it passes in the Y coordinate to the blue color, and it leaves green as 0 permanently, and it leaves the alpha as 1 permanently. And this was an attribute that I passed in, and it's actually just at the same exact position. There's no buffer offset. So the location information and the color information are the same. And to implement the panning and zooming, you can see that I have a zoom percentage times the position, and I also have a translation added onto each of these. And so those are both uniforms. The zoom percentage is a uniform float, and the translation is a uniform vec2. And those are added into the shader here, and they're modified in the actual program. This is in the keyboard function, where if you push the space bar, you zoom in, and then you send it to the video card and redisplay. And if you push the B key, you zoom out, and then you send it to the video card and redisplay. And zoom percentage is a global variable. And the way panning is implemented is I implemented the mouse function, and this gets the X and Y position of where the mouse clicked on, and then it scales them by the window width. So this is kind of independent of window size. It still works no matter what window size it is. And then we subtract the 0.5 because the OpenGL has 0, 0 at the center of the screen, but the window has 0, 0 at the top left, so we have to subtract over a half, subtract down a half to get to the center of the screen. And then we divide it by the zoom percentage. And the reason we do that is because if we would zoom in, if we didn't do this, if I would pan over, it would be a giant zoom, or it would be a giant translation. It would translate a lot. But since we scale it down by the zoom percentage, it looks much more natural and it feels a lot better. And then we just send this to the video card. So those are the modifications I made to the program. The fragment shader isn't really changed that much. Wait, no, that's the wrong one. No, this is the right one. Yeah, it's just the color, or it's just the position, and then it's added on by this to make it not have any negative values. That way there's no negative color values, because this top corner would be -1, 1, -1, 1, because it's -1 in the X direction, 1 in the Y direction, and that doesn't make sense for colors. So I add on 1 to the X value and 1 to the Y value, so that it's never negative. And then we can also demonstrate this running on the Stalker computers. And how to build it. So I'm in the project root directory right now in the terminal, and I'm going to make a new directory called new build. I'm going to change into new build, and I'm going to cmake in the project root. And this runs cmake. So now we have a make file. We can just type make, and now we made it. So now we can just run the homework, And there it is. The same project on the Stalker machines. And I also have it synced up with Git so that I can also run and debug it from here. Also, if there's a Linux specific issue, there was a Linux specific issue that I can point to. Up here. It wasn't a Linux specific issue, it was an Apple specific issue. I had to, for this specific line, I don't necessarily know why. They did not like this function on Apple, but they like this. So I had to put this line in as a weird versioning. And that's my project. I took the gasket and I implemented panning and zooming. I flipped it and I changed the colors of it. Thank you.